ado, I would like to start this by handing the mic here to Ms. Diane Goldstein.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, everyone. I'm kind of honored to be here, and I represent an organization which is a nonprofit called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. I spent almost 22 years of my career working at the South Bay, Young Beach. I retired as the first female lieutenant and had lots of epiphanies in my career about how law enforcement was involved and was not for the betterment of our relationships between us and our communities. And as Proposition 19 came through, I became aware of who Law Enforcement Against Prohibition was, and I was recruited to come in and talk about the failure of the drug war. All the speakers for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and we currently have, I think, over 3,000 current, former criminal justice professionals. And when I talk about professionals, I hate to be kind of putting the rest of the story. When I talk about criminal justice professionals, I'm talking about international coalitions of folks, whether it's street cops, the military, to Supreme Court justices, to every facet of the federal DEA and everyone else. And we're out here because we believe that we need to morally speak out and change the direction of America. As a start, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition clearly believes that all drugs should be legalized and should be treated from a harm reduction standpoint. And so one of the things that we believe, or that I believe, this is not, if Lee had its way, the Federal Controlled Substance Act would end, and then every state would be allowed to determine their own solution to their drug issues and problems. But clearly, the cannabis fight, and I hate to use the term marijuana because I think it's cannabis, because there's so many positive uses to cannabis, whether it's adult recreational use, whether it's medicine, whether it's a wedge issue to get us to end the drug war. And that's exactly what this fight for cannabis is going to do. Now, there's two different thinkings along the line, and one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to become politically active. That is going to be the most important way for us to get to change this policy. Become part of the process. Get involved in electing your candidates, understanding and holding them accountable, because clearly now we know that the public is always ahead of the politicians. When over 50% of America believes that marijuana and cannabis should be legalized, when 70–80% of everyone polled says medical marijuana exists and it's an effective use, we need to make our politicians aware of that. And so every vote that we have here means something at a local, a state, and a national election. So if you come involved with organizations such as LEAP, Northern Women's Alliance, ASA, it doesn't matter, but make your voices heard. So that's my political, speech for the importance of it. There's a couple things that I think is really important coming from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition's voice. I've developed a real thick skin in the last couple of years, speaking for LEAP, because I understand the anger and the issues and the problems with not just, the cannabis community, but what law enforcement has done in regards to ruining the relationship with those that we're sworn to serve. So I will tell you in a nutshell what LEAP believes and what I believe personally. In 1983, when I got hired as a police officer, and I spent my entire career working operational assignments, I ran a narcotics unit, I worked the gang unit, I ran a gang unit, I ran a community-based policing program, I got rid of the DARE program, which is a massive waste of fiscal resources. And what I saw when I got hired in 1983, I was hired as a peace officer. If you look at the statutory authority in the law that grants us policing authority, There's a huge difference. As a peace officer, I am here sworn to serve my community and to work hand in hand with my community. On occasion, we have police people who are trying to hurt someone. What we know unequivocally is the war on drugs has diverted critical law enforcement resources from our communities. In the 1960s, before the Controlled Substance Act, the Federal Controlled Substance Act came into effect, we solved 91% of the homicides. 90% of homicides were solved by law enforcement. Today, as we speak, we are only solving 60% of our homicides. We only solve 6 out of 10 murders across our nation, and I directly attribute that to the war on drugs. We need to return law enforcement back to what we were designed to do, is prevent crime from happening, serve our community in multiple ways by going to our community that in fact are stakeholders on how we should police. So I really want to, and I've had my epiphany moments, and I've had to realize that I may not have been racist, but because I in fact enforced these laws that were racist in nature, it had huge unintended consequences, and that's why I speak out. I have a moral justification to correct what's happening in our society. Lastly, I think there's 2 things that are really important. Where's our attorneys in the room? Where did Bruce and our other panelists go? There's a couple things that everybody needs to understand and realize. One of the reasons why law enforcement doesn't support medical cannabis or the legalization in the community is because they don't understand the history. I had almost 3,000 hours of law enforcement training from the time I went to the academy to the time I retired as a police lieutenant. I ran a narcotics unit. I had tons of the best law enforcement training. And what I can tell you is not once, not 1 minute, not 1 hour, not 1 day was spent on racial social issues relative to the war on drugs and how our laws evolved in the 1914 and the Harrison Act, and then again with the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act. And as a young 21-year-old police officer, if I had known that that's what the drugs laws were about, I think it would change my viewpoint of even maybe getting into law enforcement. So we need to change 2 things. I think we need a lawsuit against police officer standards and training because law enforcement through the California Narcotics Officers Association and the California Police Chiefs Professional Organization pays lobbyists each about $100,000 a year to prevent any drug reform. And the people who are responsible for training law enforcement at the level of execution on medical marijuana is the California Narcotics Officers that does everything to undermine the law. The only way we're going to change that is through legislation and maybe through a lawsuit where peace officers, the California Peace Officer Standards and Training, gets sued and you bring the stakeholders in the medical marijuana community and the medical providers and law enforcement together in order to effectively control and regulate the market like it's done in Colorado. And so I would urge you, especially the city of Los Angeles, that needs to be a piece of the action when you go approach your council people or Dennis Symes is running for controller or Chief Charlie Beck or police sergeant. They don't understand that there's a deliberate undermining going on over the lines. So with that note, I'm like Bruce, I can talk on and on and on about this issue, but there's a lot of very important people that you need to hear of. But I want everybody to know that there is not all police officers. If my lips are moving, I'm not lying. But I take that with a grain of salt because I understand it. Because we grew the relationship. The drug war under every president from 1980 forward, it doesn't matter what their political party is, has helped contribute to change peace officers into police officers. And we need to return the peace back to policing.
Thank you. I'm just so honored and delighted to have a representative from LEAP here. Like I said, I really encourage you to get involved with this organization because it's, you know, we talk about the knowledge and this power. We've been talking about it all afternoon. And it is really difficult for politicians to deny testimony from a law enforcement officer or a judge or